in the public? We need a roll call vote, 4/5 vote.
Simple majority will
Simple majority
suffice
of
for
the reading,
number one.
okay, 4/5 only for the money, the 3,000 or whatever. So, all in favor, say aye.
You got a roll call, but
Please.
it's an ordinance.
It is an ordinance.
So we're just passing on item number one, the reading of the ordinance.
Right, after we pass it, then you will.
Simple majority will suffice. If it's approved, I'll read the ordinance.
Correct.
And then we'll move on to consideration of number two, if appropriate, if there's a motion.
Correct, thank you. Madam Clerk, you could call for the roll of the board.
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Supervisor Alba?
Aye.
Supervisor Hempel?
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond?
Aye.
Supervisor Cloud?
Aye. Okay, Mr. Counsel, would you read the ordinance?
Thank you. And this is proposed ordinance number
2015-006.
Thank you. An ordinance of the County of Lassen setting the salary of the members of the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors of the County of Lassen, State of California, ordains as follows. Section 1. Chapter 2.36, Section 2.36.030 is amended to read as follows. 2.36.030 Board of Supervisors Salary, Benefits, and Expenses. Each member of the Board of Supervisors shall receive an annual salary of $35,485. Effective at the beginning of the pay period, which commences February 28, 2016, each member of the Board of Supervisors shall receive an increase to their annual salary of 2.5% to $36,372. Effective at the beginning of the pay period, which commences July 3, 2016, each member of the Board of Supervisors shall receive an increase to their annual salary of 2% to $37,099. Effective at the beginning of the pay period, which commences July 2, 2017, each member of the Board of Supervisors shall receive an increase to their annual salary of 3% to $38,212. Members of the Board of Supervisors will receive no other benefits except those extended to all other elected officials, including but not limited to health benefits, workers' compensation insurance, life insurance, longevity pay, and the California Public Employees Retirement System, excluding sick leave, vacation, and holiday pay. Travel by board members will be reimbursed at the same rate as for other elected officials. Board members shall be entitled to mileage reimbursement for in-county travel, including travel to and from board meetings from their place of residence. Section 2, any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held to be unconstitutional and invalid, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portion of this ordinance. The Board of Supervisors hereby declares that it would have passed this ordinance and every section, subsection, sentence, clause, and phrase thereof, irrespective of the fact that any one or more sections, subsections, sentences, clauses, or phrases be declared unconstitutional or invalid. This ordinance shall become effective 60 days after its date of final adoption. It shall be published in the Lassen County Times, a newspaper of general circulation in Lassen County, within 15 days of final adoption. There you have it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. The next order of business would be the adopt ordinance number 2015-006. We have a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a fresh calculation of Mr. salary, if you want, for the site.
Sure.
The best calculation we have is beginning in for 4 months, depending on the pay periods, but for 4 months would be $1,883. I would recommend an amount of $2,000.
That's kind of what I was calculating.
That's exclusive of the benefit.
So the $5,646 that was projected for a full year is reduced to $2,000. Yes.
Okay.
And it comes from the same person.
Yeah.
Mr. Spence, did you have a comment?
The 2015-2016 budget increased this fund, your salaries, to $186,296. This would make available to each of you $37,260 for your annual salary. This amount exceeds the statutory salary of $35,485 set in Ordinance 532, and that is still in effect until you pass this, and will remain in effect if you do pass it. Also, the 2015-2016 budget, for the current fiscal year, includes $1,795 in other post-employment benefits, which I've not been able to find out what that is. It's about $359 to each of you. The total compensation package for you is $286,789 for this fiscal year. You have made the decision that the people of Lassen County will pay each of you $57,357 in salary and benefits, which is quite a nice package for what you do. The ordinance being considered today is to keep the statutory salary of the supervisor at $35,485. This ordinance was passed in September 1st, 2013. However, each of you received far above that amount. The proposed ordinance also adds longevity pay. In 2013, I have a copy of it if you haven't bothered to look at it. The September 2013 ordinance that amended Ordinance 532C failed to put longevity pay in the language, and yet all of you received it. And there was a gap there, maybe an oversight, but for 2 years you weren't entitled, according to the ordinance you passed, to receive longevity pay. And longevity pay is can be attributed to why your salary is larger than the statutory rate. Since the current budget exceeds the statutory salary of the Lassen County supervisors, no increase really is, if you do the math, you don't need to increase this after this. If you pass this ordinance, you don't need to increase the budget at all, because it has a more than comfortable leeway to pay for the February 28th increase. Since the board cannot reconcile the amount of salary you actually receive in your paychecks versus the statutory limit, Pam and Help would ask that you need to justify any increase in the budget at this time.
Okay, anybody else from the wish to comment? Mr. Hodge.
Yeah, this is a quick question. When does the longevity pay kick in, and how much is it?
I can't answer that. Which longevity?
The one for the summer.
There are multiple longevity steps that are attributed to employees. So I'm not sure which one you're.
I'm talking about to the board of supervisors.
I understand that.
Well, can you enlighten us then what that is?
There are multiple longevity increases that are afforded to department heads, elected officials, including the board of supervisors. First, I believe, is all employees. 7. I think I can find it on the net here. The first one, I believe, is 7 years.
So up to 7 years, there's not longevity pay?
With a caveat. Department heads and elected officials are deemed to have 5 years upon appointment.
So 5 years is the first step? Am I hearing that right?
I'm sorry.
Did you just say 5 years?
No, I said when an elected official or department head is appointed, they are deemed to have 5 years.
They start off with 5.
They start off with 5 years. Instead of
So the year that they're elected, they start off with 5?
Correct.
Why is that?
Because that's the way the policy and resolution has been adopted. I'm going to try to find, I don't want to quote you the All the longevity.
So if you
steps.
start off with 5, then when you get to 7, you get a bump, is that what I'm hearing?
That's what I'm trying to find here.
And if so, can you just give me a ballpark idea of how much that is?
Oh, what the percentage is?
Is it a percentage of your salary? So if you make
Yes.
50,000, it's
Yes.
2% above that, or whatever?
Yes, it is a percentage. Mostly 5, but I think there may be one that's 2.5. 15 years.
So ballpark idea, then it's 2.5 to 5% increase.
Per, there are multiple longevity steps. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, I just like to know what they are.
That's what I'm trying to find. It's probably going to take me a minute. Doesn't seem to be logging in.
Maybe we could get that information for you.
Yes. Do you want to take your break and I can find it?
We can do that.
We can get all those.
Take a 10:35.
You didn't know you were getting a raise?
I take a 5-minute break. So I'm
No. It's already in existence.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. I'm just asking what the steps are, and if there is an amount, or if it changes, the public might want to know that.
I'm going to have to call and get that.
Take a 5-minute recess.
Okay, very good.
If you're staying, tell Tom to get in here. Are you meeting back to order?
That's why we're all nervous about it. We also have, we don't have any time to fix it if it goes wrong. There you go.
I went through it, there's nothing good in it.
Okay,
Okay, got some clarification.
we're back in order. We got the clarification from Mr. Hodge.
So,
Yes.
got some clarification about the longevity steps that are afforded to elected officials, including supervisors. So when an elected official is appointed, department head or otherwise, they are deemed to have 5 years of service.
I didn't do that.
You didn't get that?
I didn't know that. I probably got it, yeah. I just didn't
First
know that.
round I got it, I never.
Yeah, that's one point. With regard to the longevity steps, and I may have given you a wrong decimal point,
Okay.
at 7 years,
Which is actually 2 years.
Which is actually 2 years.
right, 7 years of service, only for those supervisors and department heads. Correct. So 7 years of service, there's a 2.5% longevity increase. At 10 years of service, there's another 2.5% longevity increase. At 15 years, there is a 5% longevity increase, and that's the extent of it.
Okay, that makes sense.
I get the longevity thing, I just don't get the 5 years the day you're hired. I mean, it doesn't happen in business anywhere.
When was it? You probably don't have a date when that was.
So-
If Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yeah, his history, man.
Well, first of all, I'm not quite sure where all this kind of originally came from, but my understanding is that it evolved out of the negotiations with various bargaining groups, and some of the department heads and managers and stuff would be one of those groups. This was negotiated some years back, and only a few of us actually served the number of years before we ever got any longevity. So this idea that you get 5 years to start with, I have always been mystified by that calculation. But, it's government, and government calculates however they choose to do from time to time. Obviously, in this opinion, they do. interesting enough, apparently in the process years ago when this first came about, I was left out of the queue, so it wasn't until, I think it was when Mr. Dolly joined the board, and whatever the time frame it took before he reached the longevity thing, that they actually discovered that they had not, the auditor's office had not applied that to my pay. So even though I had at that point probably well over 20 years worth of service on the board, you know, I never had the advantage of having 5 years to start with. So I guess if I've got 5 extra years, that gives me over 40 years on the board.
Mr. Chairman, you raised a question about why this came about. I wasn't involved either, but I can speak a little bit to, I think, what the reason would be, or a logical explanation for what it would be, is that when we're trying to attract department heads, particularly from other organizations, they're career-type employees who have worked at wherever they've worked for a long time, and when they come, you know, when we're trying to attract them to the county to be a department head, it's at a disadvantage for them to start at ground zero when they're, you know, maybe they've had a history of 30 years at another county or another organization. So that would be the logical reason to employ that. I don't know if that was the case or not.
So given what government is and the cost of government these days, my own comment to that would be not probably for your particular term, but for future reference. I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, I get it. It doesn't happen in business. It doesn't happen the other way around the world. And to start off with 5 years, day one, that's just nuts, in my opinion.
Right, and
Okay.
Typically...
So my suggestion to you would be to change that. I mean, not for anybody that's in place right now, but for future reference.
If you're going to change it, because I believe all of that originated out of the bargaining MOU, so you're going to have to go back to whatever the bargaining groups were that put that in place and get that negotiated out. I mean, I can't argue. I mean, I agree with you, but it's not something that I had individual control over.
I mean, I'm just saying, you know, when we're looking at the cost of government all across the country, statewide, nationwide, et cetera, you know, the part of the problem that we get into are situations where all of a sudden the salary is out of whack for what the cost of the,
I think,
all the budget of the you know, what the county is.
But I disagree a little bit with Mr. Egan in this respect, is that when we're trying to attract and offset an experienced, say, department head or any employee for that matter that we bring from who brings with them the experience and training maybe where they worked at another entity, is we do that through the salary scale itself, where we bring them in at, you know, the C step, and in some cases even the E step if you waive the requirements of the ordinance, versus starting them out at the A step. So that's where you compensate for a person who has, so give them additional longevity bonuses because they started out. You know, I mean, I think that's something that nobody's ever been able to explain it to me. And as in my case, it never was applied, and then they had to do a retroactive thing. So 1 year, it's been several years ago now, all of a sudden I've got this extra check for the fact that, you know, in order to apply it to the board members that were there, they had to go back and fix it, and that's okay. I mean, to me, what the pay level is has never been an important item as I've sat on this board, and I think that's true for most board members. So, you know, sit here and spend a day quibbling over $390.34 is what I'm going to probably realize out of this particular ordinance for the balance of this fiscal year.
I'm not speaking so much here as what you were just addressing, what you just said with respect to, let's say, a department head that you hired from outside. You're paying them based upon what their expertise is, number one, and also how hard are they to replace. You know, if you have a burger flipper, they're easy to replace. But somebody who has an engineering degree and has 10 years experience and knows about, I don't know, bridges and earthquakes and all kinds of things, those people are valuable and hard to replace.
The way you replace or the way you address that is not necessarily through some of these formulas, but by having a salary that
my point exactly,
that is commensurate to the work that you're expecting them to do. And that's, I think, has been the issue that we've strived to do for years.
Yeah.
And this goes back to, I think that as you come on this board as a new board member, you're not handed an indoctrination package. You know, this is what's going to go on. It's just not like that. I was unaware of this. Aaron, were
I
you
was
aware of
on
this?
this stuff.
Tom, I've been here for a long time, and a lot of this, I'm not even been made aware of.
So, I mean.
So
but
all you
this
guys
goes-
ought to go home feeling better today.
But this goes back to, I urge staff to put together an indoctrination package for a new board member. We're going to have 3 real soon, and explain some of the
Mr.
stuff.
Hodge, I've always said, is what you learn after you know it all counts, and if you don't learn something new every day, you've wasted that day. And we can go home today knowing that we haven't wasted it.
Yeah, and you never know it all.
Okay, I guess that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Raj. Okay. Any more questions from the public? Seeing none. Where we are now is county council did read the ordinance, and now we need to adopt that ordinance. We have a motion to adopt that ordinance.
I would move that we adopt ordinance number 2015-06 as read by council.
We have a second.
I'll second that motion.
We have a second to the ordinance. Is there any more discussion? Madam Clerk, would you pull the board?
Okay, I missed something there. Was the second?
Jeff? No, Terry.
Okay, thank you.
Terry.
Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Supervisor Alva?
Aye.
Supervisor Hemphill?
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond?
Aye.
Supervisor Parks?